See, Vishwas, you have asked a very tough question. Everybody is in a rush to acquire and achieve success. Nothing wrong in it. You can be ambitious, you can have your own dreams and desires. There is no single ingredient for success. There is a whole range of things.
He has been compatriot and collaborator for over 2 decades. I am impressed with his ability to do and accomplish so many things at the same time with amazing effortlessness. His success mantras are simple yet powerful.
So never indulge in criticizing anyone, operate on people's strength. Your success has to be based on truth. It should be based on simplicity. And it should be based on scientific endeavor. You need to bring all these things together. And you cannot hope that if you miss out on one, there is a substitute for the other.
He is a man on mission with utmost passion and fullest compassion in him. My guest this week on Vishwas in Conversation is Dr. Vinod Bihari Mathur, Chairman of India's National Biodiversity Authority.
My childhood has been uneventful. I was one of the two siblings in the family. I had an elder sister. As I now look back, my relatives, my parents, everybody understood that here is a child who is disciplined and who is serious and definitely with simple habits and with very minimal needs. I was never demanded. So that way I was unusual too. I come from a very simple family, a very humble family with a teaching and education background. My father was a teacher of philosophy. All I could remember was that all the time in our house, there was only two things. Either he was reading or he was listening to the news. And we had an old Pi radio. It was the BBC News, which was the most popular in those days. So three things. One was books all around reading, and second was the radio, and which also he used to stand and hear. It was not that he is lying down and listening. So he will stand near the radio and listen to that. And the third thing was the newspaper. So these were the three things which I recall in all my childhood association with my father and what went on in the home. But I must mention to you that what used to go on when we used to have holidays. Ajmer had the headquarters for the school education. So Madhyamik Shiksha Board. During the summer months, they used to invite college teachers to do examination work. So when the mark sheets used to come, somebody had to physically, and then they had to be compiled and totaled. So that process was called as tabulation. But I'll tell you what was my role. My role was, and also my sister's role was, to check those totals. We used to be given on that dining table before the food was served by mother. The big sheets were laid down in the morning. So we used to total them. And very soon my father realized that I was very, very methodical. And I was very, very consistent. For a while, he took a call and he said, no, only Vinod will do it. That only explains that my sincerity and consistency that is how I now relate back, must have shaped like that. And I recall that because there was a financial penalty if there was any wrong entry or wrong totaling. So me and my father then entered into an agreement. And I'm talking of very young age, maybe fifth or sixth or seventh class. At that, every mistake that I will be detecting, I will be paid 1 rupee. So that again became a little more incentive. My school and his college were next to each other. That college had a very nice sports facility. So they will conduct a sports meet, and we then invented a role for ourselves. I and another friend of mine, when the event was over, or as soon as the event was over, first, second, third were declared, we had to go and put a little crown on the winners. I'll tell you what was the hidden interest. Then we will have, every time the tea and pastries will be served, we will rightfully go over there, not as somebody whose father is there in that college. As I look back, it instilled in us a feeling of competitiveness, that first, second, third is something which you need to aspire. So in my own simple ways, I'm now trying to relate that what we say as an impression on a young mind.
Correct.
So that must have happened, that life is a competitive thing and you have to be on your own. And there is a thing called practice. But yes, practice was very important. You were getting a feel that there has to be a temperament. A temperament to participate in such events to the best possible way, come first. And I'm sure, as they say now, that it also prepares you to accept a defeat. So although you aim to be a winner, but God forbid if you don't win, then you also accept that. I was a keen observer and a very keen follower of things which were happening. I really crave a Vishwas for discipline. I understand that if you can't discipline yourself, then you cannot aspire to go high in life. That is what I think of my childhood as I go back 40, 50 years. In our times, at level, as soon as you pass class 8th and went into 9th, you had to pick subjects. So I realized that I will study biology, and I had a natural interest or an inkling in that. So you had to pick up 3 subjects. So my 3 subject was, as they call it, the acronym was PCB. So physics, chemistry, biology. As I started moving from 9th to 10th to 11th and so on, I realized that I had no great interest in medicine part of it. Then very interesting thing happened. When I moved into class 11, there was a circular in the school that the NCRT, you remember this, National Council for Educational Research and Training, will be conducting a national science talent exam. So I wrote that exam, and as things would shape out, I cracked. The best part was it will not be available for studying medicine. So you see, all that pressure on me that I should study medicine, the counter pressure came in that now I am a science talent scholar and I am supposed to study pure sciences, and therefore that is what I'm going to do. So that became the turning point in one way. And I do remember that princely 150 rupees a month, which I used to get. So which meant that you don't have to ask to your parents even those 10, 15, 20, 30 rupees, which you used to get as your pocket money. And be a real Raja. And I also had a bank account. Because that fellowship used to come in that bank account. So I went on to do my graduation. I got topped that, and I got my gold medals. And then I went to do my master's in zoology. Then the career then started shaping up. Now that you have taken zoology and you have done your master's, but you are not a doctor. So either you go for your PhD and do something. Now what happens, as I was in my final stages of my master's, my father got transferred from Ajmer to Bharatpur. and we all shifted there. Bharatpur has a very famous Kevladev National Park. We were living very close to that area. My foray into going to this bird park, going to nature, started manifesting.
Okay.
And very soon I realized that this was something which attracted me, and therefore my interest towards nature, towards conservation, towards ecology became more strengthened. At that impressionable mind, I thought that why then how do you become a forest officer? So I now go and meet him and say this is what I want to do, and obviously he was very supportive, and he says that the only way to get in is that you have to write an exam. I was dreaming to be a forest officer.
Okay.
And then somebody said that there is a 24-kilometer walk that you have to do as a part of the physical. So every morning that was also becoming a part of that I will go out and track for a few kilometers to build the stamina, prepare for this exam. And as luck would have it, in my very first attempt, I of course did 1 year of teaching, but in 83, in 82 exam I appeared and I got selected, and in 83 I joined the Indian Forest Service.
Now coming to an IFS academy and becoming an IFS officer, how was those years in the IFS academy for you?
See, very interesting question. I now get into, as I said, the training takes place in Dehradun. So I enter over there, and you'll be surprised that the training is pretty rigorous. And as many as 35 subjects are taught there. 35.
Okay.
There could be more now. I should say that, but let me admit. Now things start happening by design. There were 103 colleagues of mine who had joined, and we were told that as a part of the training, there will be physical part of it, and weapon training, and horse riding, and swimming, and so on and so forth. But you had to crack these 35 subjects. And there was a very rigorous schedule of attending classes. I realized that, see, here is another opportunity that you study these subjects, you take this training seriously, and you do well, and you ultimately top the in-service. I want to share with you, there is a term called KTP. So KTP in the academy means a keen type probationer. So a probationer who will attend all classes, who will take notes, and who will do all the homework. So very soon I was designated as the KTP. There were others too. The rest of the ones were fine that now we are IFS. We don't have to slog anything. We have come here. We have achieved whatever in life. But I had my own designs. And I'll tell you what is the KTP supposed to do. When the exam comes, everybody will rush to KTP. And during the examination period, I will not get any time to study myself, but to teach. That is how life at academy went. And eventually, I topped that academy. That is how my career or the initial training went, and I land up with all the medals which could have been awarded to anyone. But a very interesting thing now happens on the day of convocation. We have a photographer who has been taking photos of everyone since ages. I got some 7 awards when the function ended. This photographer walks up to me. And he says that, Mathur Sahab, aapne hamara bada nuksan kar diya. He said that you bagged all 7 awards, and I could have taken 7 different pictures and sold those pictures to 7 different people. So his judgment on me was that I will have to take all 7 photographs.
How did you find Geetika?
Wow, that is again a good question. How did I find her? My aunt was a teacher in zoology, and Geetika's mom was also a teacher in zoology. So they were basically friends, and as family friends, we were knowing that Geetika exists and Vinod exists. And very early in life, I developed a fancy for her. And I thought that this is going to be the girl of my choice. Beauty was not the thing which attracted me. I liked in her, in whatever interactions that we had, I really liked her mannerism. I liked the way in which she was carrying herself. She was studying in a very prestigious school in Jaipur, the Maharani Gayatri School. And I thought that this will be the person who would be very nice and accommodative and adjusting to our family. So I must say that that was my decision, which was taken quite early in life. I feel very happy that I could take that. So all along my college days, she was a known friend. The point I want to make here is that emotional stability at that age, because once I knew her, once I started liking her, then I realized that there is no point in moving here and there. Let's stick to her. She and her parents and her family and her mother wanted her to be a doctor.
Okay.
So again, you have to write the exam. When it comes to writing the exam and preparing for it, there is no better person than Vinod Mathur who can teach. She eventually became my student also. On the hindsight, it also gave me more opportunity to interact with her. Correct. अभी इतना ऑफिशियली अगर मिल रहा था तो why not? पढ़ाना में दो चीजें थी. First of all, my own interest in teaching, and the more I teach, the more time I will get to interact with her. So it was a kind of what we now call in English language a win-win situation. That made me more motivated to get into a job, because only when I get into a job, we can then think of getting married. I joined the Forest Service in '83, and in the month of May, and in the month of June we got engaged. She used to come intermittently after marriage to Dehradun, and all my friends know her. So that's how the entire batch knows who is Gitika. We used to write letters to each other every day. Everybody used to ask that अगर माथुर का चिट्ठी आया है तो मतलब डाक आई है.
It must be reflecting on your face. अगर चिट्ठी आई है या नहीं आई है.
Yes, yes. And then there was always a risk that somebody can pinch that chitti also. So we started numbering those letters.
After you finished your IFS, you were posted to West Bengal cadre. How has been experience in West Bengal as a forester?
I would say that when we say West Bengal, there is a Southern Bengal and there is a North Bengal. So I was actually posted in North Bengal in Darjeeling, and there the typical Bengal which one imagine is not so much in evidence. And we were in an area which had elephants and which had this very famous teak, the Tectona grandis, the wood which makes the fine quality timber. I must also share some more things which are very internal to our service. But see, I attended all the classes in Dehradun. When I arrived in West Bengal, I realized that your day-to-day job was so different from the training and skills that you had learned. Your field situations are very different, and what you were trained or what you were given skills were very different. And since a lot of timber working takes place, a lot of money gets deposited. So once you sell the timber, the merchants will come and they will deposit that money, and then you go back and deposit that money in the bank. First brush, this merchant comes, he is given the timber and he brings his truck to do that, and then he comes to my office and takes out his bag and puts 1 lakh rupees on my table. Believe me, Vishwas, I had never seen 1 lakh rupees in my life at that point of time, and I am talking of August 85. So I am supposed to count that because he is depositing it, and I have to give him a receipt. But my mind is working whether how come this wad of notes which are in front of me, they total up to 1 lakh. And this guy is not bothering. He just wants to leave it on my table and go and do something else and come back and collect his receipt. So for him, it is a very normal thing. And for me, I thought that I am now touching these notes. Supposing it is 99,000, what will happen? Then I say to myself that why will anybody cheat me? I have not done anything. Let me take my own time. Let me count each note. So here am I counting all those things over there. And then, yes, they were 1 lakh. And then I tell him that, okay, get a receipt and I'll... These kind of things were never taught in the academy. Now comes the turning point again. While I am undergoing training uh, in the Darjeeling district, Wildlife Institute of India advertises for faculty positions. I now look at that. I said, wow, this is something great. So I apply for that. Then the interview dates come and they invite me over there. As expected, when they hear me, they say, fine, you have you are a potential candidate. Actually, in 1 month's time, they send me an offer of appointment over there.
Mm-hmm.
Now my struggles start. I then go to Calcutta with my letter of appointment. Secretary Forest is an IS officer, and I tell him that my own interest is there in a teaching and research kind of a job. He listens to me. He said that, Mr. Mathur, did you say that you will eventually resign? Can you tell this to your minister? So I said, yes, sir, I can, but I don't know how to meet. He says, okay, come with me. He makes me sit, goes inside, tells something to the minister. Minister calls me, and the minister just looks at me and says only one word. He says, Tale aapne chhede din, which basically means, okay, you resign. This is my only conversation. And Vishwas, I must tell you, at that point of time, I wonder, what have I done? So then the secretary says, okay, you please go and wait in my room. So after 10-15 minutes, the secretary comes, and then he's laughing at me. Then he explains to me that what he told the minister. Now he tells the minister that, sir, Mr. Mathur is an Indian Forest Service officer, and for an All India Service officer, we can neither accept his resignation nor we can reject his resignation. All we can do is to forward it to central government. Then he says very cutely to the minister, he is asking for only 1 year deputation. So why don't we allow him to go for 1 year? Then he comes and tells me that Jaan bachi aur lakhon paaye. So you go now and I will issue these orders and you go and join WII. So this is now the story of my coming from West Bengal back to Dehradun. I then spent 33 years in WII from a very initial stage to at the end serving as the director for 6 years.
How was those days at WII?
See, very interesting point. What I'm going to tell you is also very interesting. So when I land up in WII, Mr. Pawar is the director. He very sweetly says, माथुर साहब आपको एक बात बतानी है. हमको तो किसी ने नहीं पूछा कि मैं डॉक्टर हूं कि कंपाउंडर हूं, पर आपसे ये सवाल जरूर पूछा जाएगा कि आप डॉक्टर हैं कि नहीं. So my early days in WII are absolutely scary because I am thinking nothing else but to find out कि मैं किसके ऊपर PhD करता हूं. If I see a lion, I run after lion. If I see a macaque, I say इसके ऊपर कर लेते हैं. And I'm struggling. There are not many people over there to help me. But now see what happens. We have an FAO project running over there. And there are 2 foreign experts. One is Dr. John Sale and there is one Dr. Alan Rogers. And now some weird kind of a struggle starts. That John Sale wants to send me to Oxford. And Alan Rogers wants to send me to, then eventually, because Dr. Sale was the boss, and he said that, no, I'll be better off in Oxford. And they give me about 5 months time. By the time I apply to, the final decision is taken on my application. And as things will happen, after, in about 4 months time, I get a letter. There is a committee of vice chancellors and college principals, CVCP it is called, of the United Kingdom, and they say that they are pleased to offer me this fellowship. Obviously very, very thrilled over there. And I said, fine, now things are settled, I will go over there. And my guide also is a person who is known to the WII, and he then works out with me a very nice system. He says that, so we should work out a thing where he does his field work in India and he then comes to England to write it up. It serves me very well that I now develop my proposal of working on ungulates and working in Siriska, in Tadoba, in Kana, and I will collect, I go to England to do my initial part on that, and then complete my field work, and then I go for writing it up. Okay. So that is again the early years on that. And I am incidentally the first PhD of WII. Now we have a list of 150, and I can show you one day the list of alumni of WII. And my name is at the top, that this guy is the first PhD. Those early days were full of struggle to get my own PhD. I must share with you that obtaining a PhD from Oxford was something like a nightmarish experience, and the kind of rigorous evaluation they do, and the things that you are subjected to, unimaginable. I mean, that is for some other day. But now that it is over and behind, but it gave me an understanding of what the research is, what is a quality research, and what is a hypothesis, and how it needs to be tested, and how the importance. See, the one line I would say that the British system is very, very rigorous, in the sense that it allows for creative thinking and innovative writing. These are the two hallmarks of their system. I will explain to you my brush with my supervisor. Here I go to my supervisor. My first reaction is he rushes to his room, gets his diary. And I am now talking of 23rd of June. So this discussion is taking place on 23rd of June. And he says, see me on 18th September. I have a problem today. And this guy is telling me to come back after 2.5 months. Then we will have a discussion. And then when I go there and when I discuss with him, he says, looks a good idea. So why don't you write? Now my problem is, if I could write, if I could understand, why will I come to you? But so what now happens, that after that meeting, he has explained me, of course, everything, and I do, and I write. And then I go to his room. Outside there is a clip hanger, and those 5-7 pages of draft, he then has to be fixed over there, and he will then pick it up and he will read, and he will come back with all kinds of comments. Especially for a PhD, you are supposed to have an independence of mind, thought, action. Everything is independent. So that is what I was subjected to. I arrive in the department, and the secretary of the department comes, and she gives me three keys. She says, this is the key to enter the department, this is the key to enter the library, and this is a card for photocopying. So library, it's open 24 hours. So that is my second impression. And when I go to the library, I'm in the month of June, and I realize on the table is Journal of Wildlife Management, June issue. Whereas you know how delay takes place in our situation.
In late 80s, early 90s, it used to take at least 3 months to arrive in the libraries here in India. 33 years is a pretty long time. I mean, I have seen you in WII as a dean, and dean plays a very important role in shaping the educational character, or rather, I would say the professional character of an institution. Share about how it is being a dean of WII.
See, as I said, before becoming dean in 2005, I have now done about 19 years as a scientist. And in those 19 years, I have, if I can phrase it like that, large number of unfulfilled ambitions as a teacher, as a scientist, because I am not the boss. So I am a scientist. Over me are dean, and over me is the director. So I have lots of things, of changes I want to bring in curriculum, of new things which I want to do that, of an openness I want to bring it. Now, see, I will start reflecting my own character in it. I have a very strong belief that one has to have an ability to solve somebody's problem. So that is the first mantra for me. And the reason is, I think that anybody who comes to you is coming with an expectation. Otherwise, why will he come? He could have gone to 10 more people. So this person is coming with an expectation. He has an issue or a problem to be solved. How can I help? See, this is the feeling I have all through. And this help could be short term, it could be long term. and I have to be very careful that when a short-term help is needed, I don't give him a long-term solution. And when a long-term solution is needed, I don't give him a short-term. Because it will not work. And this is something which has ingrained in me. And believe me when I say that, even to the worst of my detractors, I will do the same. Whether you like me or you don't like me, whether you hurt me or you help me, I will never budge from that I will give a correct advice. And when I will give you correct advice, my body language will also be positive. Many times it happens that people's body language is something else. And that hurts people more than what is the advice. So I realized that your body language has to be positive, your attitude has to be positive, and you have to quickly, and the quickness in decision making.
Correct.
See, this guy has come, and you remember my where my ideas are shaping. That on 23rd of June, my supervisor is saying, come back on 18th of September.
You're right. Yeah.
So you can imagine what is going at the back of my mind. That my problem is today. I need to have some idea, some guidance, some help from you today. And I cannot be shoved in like that. Everybody needs help in life. This is another philosophy I want to explain to you. I have 2 children. I always think that if my child will go to seek help from someone, what will happen? If the same person says, go back, I don't have time, I don't do like this, you have done wrong, I don't want to talk to you, what will happen to my child? So every time a student comes to me or my colleague comes to me, that is the thought at my mind. You may say I'm selfish, but that is how I'm guided. That in the event of my own children needing help, they should not feel or subjected to this kind of a thing that somebody did not have time, somebody had. So even in a very harsh decisions which I had to take, I allowed that kind of a flexibility to happen. With Dean, yes, I had a role to play, and I had a very nice director in Mr. Sinha, whom you also know, who said that everything academic is the responsibility of the dean. And he gave such a free hand, and we developed such a nice understanding that, and by the time computers had come to WII, in fact, they were always there in WII, but I told him that I will do everything on my own. I will seek your advice on major issues, and I will inform you on everything, but through a mail. It is your responsibility to read those mails over there. Because if I don't do that, then I will be going back because somebody has come to ask me certain things, and I say that I will ask the director and wait for 15 days. Then the same thing is there.
Correct.
So I will apply my mind. I will take a call to the best of my ability. I will decide, but I will keep informing you, and you can see. And if you think something has to be changed or modified, we will do it very quickly on that. So that kind of an understanding gave me flexibility. Everybody knows in WI that I from my dean days onwards, I work for all 7 days. And my standard response was, if somebody was asking, I said, please read your mail. Because by the time you come back and ask me, I would have replied that. Let me tell you what happens now when I become the director. That is where the transformative changes that I want to bring. Because as a dean, you still can't bring many things. The biggest strength was that anybody who has to do anything with conservation or with WII, I know that person. So that is again my biggest strength coming is the networking part. Because there is nobody whom is there right now in the country, I can say so, that who is in the field of conservation and I don't know him either personally or whatever manner over there. And networking is so very important. In my opening remarks in WII, I now recall, which is now February 2014, 6 years or something have passed. I say that I have to do 3 things. A, I have to attract talent. That is my role as the chief executive of WII. That I have to attract talent, I have to nurture talent, and I have to retain talent.
Correct.
So all 3 things. this is what the responsibility I gave myself. And that will change the character of WII. Because if we don't go and open out, whether anybody available nationally or everybody available internationally, whatever I can do, I will do that. And I say with pride that during my tenure, I was able to bring a large number of people who were outside the WI system, but then came over there. We had, for the US scientists, we had the Fulbright program. So I opened up that program. Anybody who is a Fulbrighter can come to WII. He can interact with our scientists. So that was my first part of attracting it and making them believe. And by this time, with a lot of exposure, I knew the value of alumni. That this is the alumni of WII, which I need to get back to. And they are the people, because you see in the Western world, everywhere it is the class of 64 or class of 75 or whatever. Correct. And the people are doing extraordinary amount of work for their alumni and for their universities. So I thought that let me go back to them. So when it came for appointing examiners, I said there can be no better examiner than go to our old student. Because he has been a part of the system. Correct. He may be young, and he is young, but that doesn't mean that he doesn't have the wisdom and experience. So in small little ways, I was now opening out WII to get what is called as attracting of the talent, and nurturing would mean nurturing again. Vishwas is not easy. I do not share the same wavelength with all my faculty. See, in scientific world too, you know what I'm saying, that lots of differences are there. And one has to learn to live with those differences, and one has to learn to live in a positive way. So nurturing was again very important. There's no point in me getting a Fulbright fellow or a Ramanujan fellow, and then my faculty or the system stifles that person over there. So that is again was, I thought, my responsibility of nurturing it. And then all those people who are passing out from WII as our masters or as our PhD, because now our PhD program has also grown very big. If I cannot retain my own PhD, then what is the point? I'm not here to serve everybody else. Of course, anybody else can also take and benefit. Then I realized that I must get projects. I must get funding. I must get money. So what I'm trying to define is that my role as the chief executive of WII was centering around these three things: that attract them, nurture them, retain them. And I'm very proud to say that the time I left, there were some 350 new researchers or young researchers working in WI. So that's a huge now number. Every time I explain, discipline is no compromise. See, many times it happens in the academic world, people will come back to you and say that this is a violation of our academic freedom. So I had a tough time there to understand and explain that, yes, I respect your academic freedom, but at the same time, these are the societal norms. These norms have to be obeyed. And I gave them a choice that as long as you are in WII, these will be the norms. If you feel that you have to criticize the government, you have to criticize an impact assessment, you have to do this, that, whatever, you are free to go out. But within the norms of the system, these are the things which are there. I expect my scientists and researchers to behave responsibly, but at the same time, responsibility means that you will have this and work as a team, work as an institute. And that was the reason why we were able to push so much projects over there.
I have seen you, a man with a passion, with fullest compassion. It has left a long standing impression on me personally, because I have a passion. I used to lack compassion. No, it's true, because I was young. Your interactions with your staff were, they were disciplined, but they were full of love and respect for their ability. Do you miss your staff at WII?
Oh yes, certainly. Certainly. See, let me tell you like that. In my office as director, there were 6 persons. And it was like a well-oiled machinery. And all 6 had to be present because their roles were very defined. And they were sequential. Of course, I used to tell them that give a cover to each other. But my strength was because these 6 persons were working with me. And believe me, they won't even go for a smoke break or a tea break just like that, as it happens in every office. And there used to be a battle of wits that who remembers more. I used to tell them that you guys are computer guys, you know everything, you do all the time, but my computer is here. I will tell him, go to that month, go to that year, type in this word, and you will get that document.
Right.
So those were the kind of things that, and see, in WII, I mean, this was my personal staff, but my faculty colleagues, everybody, and the reason was that nobody in theory will get no for an answer. That is also my part. And I have to explain a little bit of my philosophy. See, Vishwas, everybody, you and I included, have our own shares of strengths and our own shares of weakness. But my attitude is something different. That I will operate only on your strength. I will forget about your weakness and try to plug in or pitch in where your weakness is there. Many times people would come. See, people will complain against one another. सर आपने उसके लिए ऐसा कर दिया, वो तो ऐसा कह रहा था, वो तो ऐसा कह रहा था, वो ये कर दिया, उसने पहले ऐसा नहीं किया, उसने आज ऐसा नहीं किया. So yes, I used to give a patient listening to that. But if you operate on somebody's negative points, then there is no end to it. And therefore, this is again a very important part of governance, that you must identify, and each one has his or her own strength. It could be limited. I had a staff in my office. If you tell him to wrap a gift, I can tell you nobody in my faculty or anywhere can wrap the gift like he does. So if a gift has to be wrapped, I will ensure that it has to go to him only. See, this is the way in which chief executives have to behave. That they must be able to spot the talent, they must be able to identify it, and they must be able to reach out to it. In one way, I will say that I also felt a conflict between macro management and micromanagement. Because many times it happens that should I, as a director or a CEO, do a macro management or you do a micromanagement, there is no fixed answer to it. You need to have a combination of both macro and micro into it. And the ability to do that comes from that I work 17/7.
Correct.
See, that is the other part.
I know. So, I come to that later. 17/7.
Yeah, okay.
Interesting part of it.
My conversation with Vinod continued for 4 hours in total. What you watched and listened is just half of it. Because I believe that he is a born storyteller. Born storyteller, as well a man with mission, full of passion and utmost compassion. So, stay tuned on this channel to watch the part 2 of my conversation with Dr. Vinod Bihari Mathur, Chairman of India's National Biodiversity Authority. And yes, if you have not subscribed to this channel yet, then do subscribe, and don't forget to press that bell icon so that you get early notification of the upcoming episodes